Shema Yashala Yahweh Allah Yahweh Achad Shema Yashala Yahweh Allah Yahweh Achad Shema Yashala Yahweh Allah Yahweh Achad. One Mike Young, Sahai Spirit Wind Judah of the GMS Mississippi Camp, giving all any glory to the Heavenly Father, Yahweh, by Hashem Yahushai, by Hashem Hakudash, also in the double honors to our elder apostles and elder bishops of Great Millstone who rule well, peace and blessings as well as health and wellness to the house of David the elect. All right, today I want to go into a topic entitled the delusion of supremacy and the matriarch. All right, which is going into two different things. First, the delusion of supremacy, because the spirit was on us last week. All right, the brothers and myself, we were going into the origins of Jacob and Esau. All right, and in some of the translations of the scriptures, in Genesis, where it says, and Esau was a cunning hunter, a man of the field, but Jacob was a plain man dwelling in tents. All right, some of those translations, I think it's the ASB translation, it says that Jacob was a civilized man dwelling in tents. And just so happened that before that, we were looking at the Iroquois Indians, which were of Gad, you know, the tribe of God of the nation of Israel. We looked at the Iroquois, and they came up with the pillars of what E would later call the U.S. Constitution. Okay, showing you that there was already civilization prior to E. All right, moving to Japhet. All right, moving to Japhet as the Medes. All right, that's the Medes. All right, before the Romans. All right, they came up with the concept of a Senate pursuant to Second Ezra, the 8th chapter, where it goes into the distinction of the beast, the fourth beast. All right, but it goes into detail in Second Maccabees, the 8th chapter. I think I said Maccabees, right? Second Maccabees, the 8th chapter, where it tells you that the Romans, they didn't have a monarch. They did not have a monarch. They did not have a king. They had a senate. But that was actually retrieved, so it really ultimately stolen from Japhet. They got that from Japhet, man. So the Grecians, they built their civilization off another nation's civilization. Okay? But also along with that, all right, those other nations and those other belief systems of those other nations, such as the Babylonians, such as the Egyptians, such as the Medes, such as Gad, what they did, they took those same belief systems, all right, and just gave them Grecian names, all right? And ultimately, during the Renaissance period, put Idumean or so-called white man's pictures on their legacies and on our legacies, all right, he took credit for them, all right? So that created the delusion, all right? Shalom, brother Yahweh, Bashim Hawashah, Bashim Kakadash Brakatah, and Shalom to you Akyam and you Akwath, who are tuning into this live stream. But that created the delusion of supremacy. We are under the delusion of supremacy. And if brothers have scriptures on their spirit, you know, feel free, all right? We are under the delusion of supremacy, and it's real. The result of so-called European colonization is real. All right, it tells you in Jeremiah 30 that we had a grievous wound. What the fuck do you think that grievous wound was? The physical trauma was the slavery, but the spiritual trauma was his delusion of supremacy. You have Cesare Borgia in your mind when you pray. That's a wound. That's a psychological blow. All right? Not E, but Eve, the so-called black woman, man. Decades and decades and decades of using skin lightening cream. Skin lightening cream. And I know for a fact because I grew up in a house with women in it, and what they did, they used something called ultra glow. You know, what type of demonic shit is that? They actually get rid of your melanin, like lighten up your melanin, man. But we're subject. We're under the oppression. We're under the effect. We're under the effect of the delusion of supremacy. Because all black ass Americans, all the Israelites, whether it's the Southern Kingdom or the Northern Kingdom, the majority of them, they have no understanding of a civilization preceding Esau Edom. So he who wins the war writes the story, and we are products of the story that he wrote. So you grow up thinking Chester Ray Borges, well, I'm sorry, you grew up thinking your Messiah and your God is a so-called white man. You grew up thinking all the saints were so-called white men. But furthermore, you grew up thinking that civilization started with the so-called white man. All right? So you grow up, let's get some nature right quick. You grow up under that delusion. But through the spirit and power of Yahweh Bashmal Shai, the Most High has healed us from that delusion, man. All right? Let me get the scripture, Psalm 31:13 that the brother's putting up, GMS in his likeness. For I have heard the slander of many. Fear was on every side. While they took counsel together against me, they devised to take away my life. And that reminds me of Psalm 83. All right, they have taken counsel against the hidden ones, man. All right. When that fourth beast came back into power, that wound was healed through that renaissance, which means rebirth of the Roman Empire, scripturally known as the fourth beast. Okay, they came back through and committed something called iconoclasm. Job 9:24 says what? The earth is given into the hand of the wicked. He covered the face of the judges thereof. But through all his propaganda, through his movies, all right, through his media, all right, he always promoted himself as the superior one. The one he went to the other countries to make them get along, to fight their bad guys. All right. And it was all deception, man. All right. It's all to promote that delusion of superiority. I remember I saw one of the versions of James Bond. This had to have been around 2013, the movie that came out around that time. And in the beginning of the movie, first of all of his butlers and maids and his drivers were Israelites, man. And so you ought to know, James Bond 007, he's the poster child for Idumean supremacy. In the beginning, he was after a bad guy. He was Jake, no matter how agile and athletic Jake was, James Bond caught his ass, Same thing, like I said, going to it, and he took the C hip, all right, in the movie as well. But furthermore, all of his servants were Jakes, man. The fuck? But what are you telling your subconscious? You reinforcing this storyline that's been propagated since the Renaissance period that they are superior, man. I almost have to run from these ducks. Run from these geese, man. You see? I mean, and that's pretty much the topic of this. And the other thing I wanted to get into was the matriarch, man. Because you have a lot of our women, which, before I get into that, going back to the delusion of supremacy or superiority, man, Eve buys into that. Eve looks down on you because she's judging you by these European standards. She's judging you by the social construct of your oppressor. All right. She had a lot of Eve that's so absorbed into their career, and it elevated them to where they could look down on you and judge you by his value system and judge your worth by his monetary value system. All right. And you shouldn't accept that narrative that your worth is based on your oppressor's value system. All right. Who cares if you don't make six figures? Okay. Who cares if, whatever, man, whatever the little modern Western narrative is, man, it's bullshit. All right. Because if you judge her towards her power's standard, her God standard, she fails. She can't hold her head up. You see? But let me get this scripture. All right. Perfect. Shadow of thy wings to our tribes. Jeremiah 31:22. How long wilt thou go about, O thou backsliding daughter? For Yahweh have created a new thing in the earth. A woman shall compass a man. And that backsliding daughter is scripturally Jerusalem or Israel. Okay? Yep. So, I mean, look, man. The point is, man, our women have been elevated in this society so you can forget about it, man. But she doesn't know any better. All right. And then now you have the so-called woke women. But guess what? They still want to maintain their superiority. Now we're segueing into what? The matriarch. Because the matriarch is still Eve ruling over your ass. All right. The first level of the matriarch was Christianity. Because especially to this liberal Christianity, Eve's still over you, man. See, in a nigga community, man, you're owned by Eve, man. All right? They have an obsession with owning you, man. All right? Christianity is nothing more than a fucking plantation where Eve is the owner of the plantation, but Eve is the overseer, man. Because no matter how old you get as an Israelite man, you still a little boy, and your grandma is still telling you about JC, sweet Jesus, and church and all the other bullshit, man. 1 second, let me get past. Hey, how y'all doing? You know what I mean? Let me get past. But the point is, you still getting judged by the standards. She's still ruling over you through your oppressor's religion. And we got like Jeremiah 5:5. Hey, those great men have loosened the shackles. What the fuck do you think those shackles are, man? You know? Because if you go by the standards of this world, you have a low perception of yourself, man. You have a low perception of yourself, you see? You know? And part of taking those shackles, and you Israelite sisters too. You know, you might battle certain demons like, damn, I ain't never wore my hair natural, or damn, you know, you probably feel like you like a Roman Catholic nun by dressing modest. But you know, there's something called style and grace. You know, you can still be modest and be royal, because really class belongs to the nobility. And I'm not just saying it to say that, but when you say someone has class, that's part of the noble. That's a noble behavior, man. That's part of nobility, man. Okay? And again, don't forget that, you know? None of us should, the men or the women, man. I don't have to wait till Esau crowns me a king to say I'm a fucking king. But I know what comes with that being called a king, man. Self-restraint. Having standards and reserving yourself for your standards, man. And praying to Yahweh Shema Shai not to be a slave to my flesh, which keeps me in the behavior pattern of a fucking peasant, man. Of a fucking animal, man. Esau loves when you're a fucking animal, man. Esau loves promoting Eve as a prostitute, and you as a damn lowlife, man. All right, but every time we build, all right, he destroys. He hates that shit. But as long as we're divided and conquered and functioning on this low nature wavelength, just in the flesh like little brute beasts, that's what he propagates and that's what he promotes. Because that's not a threat to his power, man. But now we're building in the spirit. So you had other jakes that had these constructive minds to build and, you know, build their economy and all this, but as a collective, it failed because we're subject to prophecy. America was a prison sentence, man. Okay? By the way, let me get the brilliance of this scenery. All right? It's brilliance of the scenery. Look at all these dragonflies. I know dragonflies have a spiritual meaning. I just don't know it off the bat, though. Quite sure, you know, brothers might know. But dragonflies have a spiritual meaning, you know. But look, man, that whole, and if you're not careful, you'll forget. You know what I mean? Like if you in this truth, right, and you know who you are, but you bombarded by lies all the time, you'll forget. Like, wait a minute, his superiority is a delusion. And him actually being in power, well, that's set up by Yahweh Bashim Shai. And that's what goes over people's head. They feel like, well, he must be doing something. He's in power. Nah, the power is given. A Psalm 75 said promotion is of the Yahweh Bashim Shai. He put it down one and set it up another, man. All right? You must forget, this is the Most High's chess game, man. This is the Most High's game of thrones, man. All right? As it says in Revelations 4, he do these things for his pleasure. What things? These nations that he construct nations and then tear down nations, man. Or he builds nations and tear down nations. But the point is, Akim, that this whole Esau thing and him being the number one of the planet, that's a delusion. He got civilization from Israel and the other nations. All right? But if the things you don't know, create the illusion that it doesn't exist. The things that you did not see happen, creates the illusion that it never happened. So you didn't see Esau, or Esau never mentioned in his history that he got his civilization from the other nations. So now what he has told you is that when he came into power, everybody else were basically savages and primitive, man. Not telling you that he got his systems from them, but he stripped them of resources, man. Okay? And furthermore, all right, this female empowerment is nothing more than a second attempt or another way of keeping them shackles on your neck, man. All right, keeping them shackles on your neck. All right, another way of just economically, all right, throwing jakes in a river full of gators, man. All right, the Israelite man will never overcome or never elevate if he's oppressed by a damn woman, man. All right, and his value is assessed by some damn Western woman. Who gives a fuck what your value is as a Western woman? All right, because you're only valuing us by this fake ass, shallow, materialistic system of Esau, even Rome, man. Rome is all about the senses and a lifestyle, and living a lifestyle of comfort and appeasing the senses. And what do these people, what do these women value, man? Either money or some type of sexual appeal, because they are under the vibration of the Romans, man. All right, let me check back on this comment board. All right. That's pretty much, I got pretty much the bulk of it anyway. You know, like I said, hey, the water for tuning in. I'm about to go clock out in the spirit. All right, handle some business. But I'm glad I was able to get this in through the spirit, man. You know, go back to the elements, man. It's therapeutic. But the point is, man, the overall summary, the overall conclusion is, man, don't fall for the okie doke. His superiority, his supremacy is a hoax. And the matriarch is just another attempt to overthrow you, man, or to further overthrow you. All right? As it says in the scripture, a woman should not usurp authority over a man. As it also says in the scripture, give not thy strength unto women, nor thy ways to that which destroyeth kings. And one way that destroys a king or his kingdom is putting women as the brain of his kingdom, man. Because they have an internal motive, which is to really overthrow you, and they be on top. But with that, I hope you brothers and sisters were edified. Till the next time, shalom.